It's Wednesday, it's the 12th of February. Thank you for coming back on again. Now, I want to start with a few interesting bits of news that have just grabbed me lately, because I've been getting some interesting correspondence from Chinese people around the world and actually from people in China. So there's been some interesting perspectives to sort of try and help our understanding of what's going on, really. This is the year of the rat. And it's called the Spring Festival, the 25th of January, or the Lunar New Year. I think it varies every year depending on the moon. Now, if you've got Chinese friends, you'll know what a big deal Spring Festival is. They look forward to it for months. They talk about it for months after. It's a bit like Christmas, Easter and New Year, all rolled into one. And it's very important in Chinese culture to be home with your family for the Spring Festival, for the New Year's Day. And this emergence of the virus just happened to be at this time when people were travelling around all over the place. And Wuhan didn't shut down until the 23rd of January, that people weren't allowed to travel freely in and out of Wuhan. And even just the day before that, it's estimated that 30,000 people left Wuhan to go to other parts of the country. Now, what happens in Chinese economics, people often work away from home. So people might work away from home for a few months at a time. So the people that were working in Wuhan obviously were very keen to get home for the new year, for the Spring Festival. So they were leaving Wuhan where they were working to go to their hometowns and the home cities and into the villages in the countryside, various places round about. 30,000 people is a lot. We can assume that some of those were infected with the virus. So quite a lot of people there. So the 21st and the 22nd of January were probably the peak transmission times when people were moving around. And there's unconfirmed rumours that, well, I'm not going to go into the rumours actually, but there's possibilities of spread outside China that's not official, so I'm not going to go into details on that. I can't give evidence for it, but it does seem to be spreading is the bottom line. Now, at the moment, the lockdown in Hubei province is compulsory. Infected people everyone, the whole population basically, is in what the Chinese are calling home stasis. So they're just staying at home. And I think just one person's allowed out every other day to get food. And people, when they go out to get food, they have to wear a mask. They're not allowed to talk to other people in the streets. There's no public meetings. There's fines if people have public meetings. And apparently there's drones patrolling the street to make sure that this is enforced. Now, the government in China have made available fantastic, huge numbers of masks with amazing Chinese logistical capacity. And everyone in China now is entitled to 3 masks a day that they can buy from the local outlets and chemists. They have to show their identity card, but they're very cheap. So the profiteering has been eliminated. And as well as that, apparently in a lot of public lifts, there's boxes of tissues in public lifts where people can get tissues and press the lift buttons and do things to stop them coming into contact with the virus, which is probably lying on surfaces. So the Chinese government's really doing quite an incredible job in many ways. And a lot of families, as we've said, are locked down. But the vast majority of people are accepting this. They understand the necessity for it. And this isn't just in Hubei, in Wuhan. This is like all over China. So I really don't know. There must be hundreds of millions of people with restrictions on them at the moment. Most places it's one person allowed out every other day to go and get food. People are allowed out to work a lot of the time, although they are being encouraged to work at home. And this is being monitored by block security people who normally look after the day-to-day security of housing blocks and housing estates. And it's also self-policing. So the people that realise the importance of this are monitoring the people that don't realise quite how important this is. And if people are caught lying to the authorities about where they've been, there are criminal prosecutions on that. And there's actually a government report line to report people that are breaking their quarantine curfews. Sounds draconian by our standards, but you know, this is a life-threatening condition, and the Chinese are taking these, what I would call excellent community health measures to restrict the spread of the virus. So from a slow start, they're taking quite amazing measures now. I know in parts of China, in Wuhan, for example, I believe there's not enough hospital facilities for everyone who's got the virus. So apparently what's happening now is there's teams of nurses and doctors going round people that are sick or known to have the virus and monitoring them at home. And if they are not particularly ill with the virus, as thankfully most people aren't, then they're just leaving them in home self-isolation, leaving them to isolate themselves. But people do realise the importance of this, and this is being adhered to. And if it's not, there's some neighbours will keep them in line. So, but the people are being transferred to hospital if they need medical care. The medical system in China is actually very sophisticated. So that is actually being done quite well, from what I hear from various people on the ground in China. I can't substantiate these reports, but they do sound quite reasonable and consistent with what I know about China. So from a slow start, shall we say, the Chinese government is really taking this very seriously and doing an excellent job. And I'm glad to see that the World Health Organization is also seems to be talking in more assertive terms. I mean, they've organised an excellent conference with 400 specialists to work out the best way to do this, the best way to combat the virus. And they're doing a good job there from a slow start. There does seem to be some control of social media by the World Health Organization via internet companies, which is a bit of a two-edged sword. It's a good thing. It's probably adversely affected me a little bit, but of course it's kept out all the crackpots and all the people who who ignore the evidence. Now, what do I think is going to happen? Unfortunately, I still think, from what we know about spread, from what we've looked at in previous videos, I still fear a pandemic. It's quite possible that in 2 to 3 weeks' time, this condition will be widespread in quite a lot of Western countries, including my country. And 2 to 3 months after that may be the peak of the epidemic. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I am expecting it to come to the UK. And indeed a lot of other Western countries. I hate saying this, it's always so difficult to weigh between fear-mongering and realistic expectations. All I can say is that I've been studying how this virus transmits over the last few weeks, and I think it is probably going to spread, especially with this uncertainty about spread in the air, this aerosolization. Chinese authorities have said it is spread in the air. We have no scientific papers on that at the moment. Officially, it's still direct or close contact from surfaces and droplet infection. But if it's spread in the air, that is a game changer. Now, the other thing that's caught my attention is the cruise ships. Not a good time for a cruise, really. I hope the cruise companies don't get onto me, but a few cruises have had difficult times, as you know. So there's a Diamond Princess in quarantine in Yokohama in Japan. And from the latest news I've got, on the 11th of January, as far as I know, there was 39 additional positive cases. And that takes it over to over 170 people have become positive. Now, it's not for me to criticise the way this is being done, but if I was on quarantine on that ship, I would be pretty uncomfortable at the moment, because it's not clear if these 170 cases were all infected at the start of the quarantine period. That would be the question I have. But this is the Japanese government. They know what they're doing. It's Japanese law. It's not for me to question. Now, the Westerdam was the other liner, the Dutch cruiser, the Westerdam cruise ship, that had been turned away from Taiwan, US, Guam, Japan, Philippines. No one wanted it. Thailand had been turned away, although the Thais did offer food and fuel and logistical support. Well, apparently, I've heard now it's being allowed to dock in Cambodia, in Sihanoukville, in the south of Cambodia. Now, it just so happens, out of pure coincidence, I've actually done quite a bit of teaching work in Sihanoukville, in the university there, and it's a great place, but it's not got sophisticated medical facilities by any means. Even in Phnom Penh, the capital, the medical facilities. Again, I've worked in Phnom Penh and in medical work in hospital there, the Sihanouk Cope Hospital, and the people do a great job, but it hasn't got massive reserves of capacity, and Sihanoukville certainly hasn't. So, rather strange decision there to go to Cambodia, and I understand the people are going to be allowed to disembark in Cambodia. I also understand that the crew say there's no one sick on board, so there we are. And given that I don't know, there's probably several thousand people on board, and given that the Japanese government doesn't have the testing facility to test all the people on the Diamond Princess, I would be fairly confident that the Cambodian government does not have enough facilities to test everyone on the Westerdam. So that's a bit of a story to watch there, really. Let's just do some... don't want to make these videos too long. I think what we'll do is we'll just do some news headlines from today. Oh no, I haven't finished the news yet. Sorry. There we go. Now in Hubei province, they're low on these PCR, these real-time polymerase chain reaction kits that polymerase the ribonucleic acid, which is the genetic material of the virus, of the COVID-19 virus, as we're now calling it, COVID-19. Anyway, they're low on these kits, so the clinicians there, their nurses and doctors, are now very experienced of this. So they're able to diagnose COVID-19 clinically and put it down as a confirmed case. So because of the clinical experience there now, the shortage of the PCR kits is not really too much of a problem, because of you just recognise these clinical pictures after a while. Now, the rest of China is still using the polymerase chain reaction for diagnosis. And this was helpfully translated by a Chinese emailer from the 5th edition treatment program for the new virus, which is from the Centre for Disease Control in China. Now, Wuhan is also running short of oxygen, apparently. Now, I have heard other reports about the authorities in Wuhan and Hubei province, and they are quite open about the facts that they are not able to catalogue all cases. So here we have the cases for today, which I want to look at in more detail on the next video. But the authorities, so the confirmed case is 45,206, but they're quite open about the fact, saying there's more than this. This is just what they've diagnosed. They know there's undiagnosed cases there. Many people who could be carrying the virus or are asymptomatic or have had very mild illness. So they're quite open about that. So there's a lot of criticism of the Chinese for underreporting. But to be fair, they are acknowledging that they realise this. But this is what they can confirm, and they're evidence-based, so that's good. But they do acknowledge there's more. Likewise, suspected cases are down a bit today, which is good. Severe cases up a bit, 8,204. Again, from the Chinese site. The deaths, sadly, continue to climb. Recovered continue to climb. Countries affected remain 28, although unconfirmed. I've had several unconfirmed reports from different countries around the world reporting cases there from people that have emailed me after seeing these videos. So I've actually been collating quite a bit of information about this, but I can't broadcast it really, because I can't confirm it. It's just from emails from individuals, but some are quite sensible individuals. Basic reproduction, the best number we have on that is 2.6 for the R0. Now, I'm going to leave that there for now. In the next video, I'll maybe just do one more thing on this. The next video, we want to talk about death rates some more, and we also want to talk about how we define severity how we define recovered, because these are actually defined on Chinese websites in the Chinese language. And again, people have kindly translated those for me and emailed me in from various parts of the world, which is very kind. So I'm going to share that with you. But just before we go on and do that, the deaths here, 1,118 over the confirmed cases, 45,206, gives a percentage of 2.4% death rate for confirmed cases. Now, there's obviously many more cases than have been confirmed. So in this number here, I've added the suspected cases. So the death rate, we know, the death rate is confirmed. That's confirmed by the Chinese authorities. But if we add the known cases, the diagnosed cases, to the suspected cases, and again, we mentioned yesterday that the Chinese clinicians, if they suspect it, they're probably right because they've seen it now. That will give us a death rate of a mortality of 1.8%. Now, at the start of an epidemic, the death rate can appear artificially high because of the number of unconfirmed cases that are still incubating, or cases that have mild forms of the disease. So that would, if there was more cases, that would lower the mortality. But as well as that, we need to balance that with the lag effect, because some people that are sick now, unfortunately, will go on to die. We hope a very small minority, but some of the people that are sick now will go on to die. So of course that would tend to raise the percentage. But overall, epidemiologists seem to feel that in the early part of the epidemic, the death rates do tend to be overrated. So I'm hopeful that the death rate is less than both these figures, but more detail on that. In the next video, what I want to do is define what we mean by these terms. We want to define the terms of severe cases and recovered cases, because the Chinese have got good definitions of those. So I'll be on the next one. Do tune in.